the murky world of fraud.
Every year, around £52 billion is stolen from the UK's public purse. But up and down Britain, an army of fraud fighters is battling to win it back.
This money should really have been used to pay for the essential services that all of us use every day.
Benefit fraud does not pay.
What it effectively is people stealing money from you and I.
This is a huge amount of money and it's disgraceful.
From paying for the police and our health service, filling in potholes and emptying our dustbins, to making sure everyone has a roof over their head.
£2 million means an awful lot, but it was just the tip of the iceberg.
So it's absolutely disgusting what they do.
The investigators' mission has never been more vital.
Blatant lies just to claim benefits.
And the only thing I could put it down to is greed.
This is not a victimless crime. This is coming out of the public purse.
We will not let it go. We're like dogs with bones.
You will be found, you will be investigated, and ultimately you will be prosecuted.
The Fraud Squad are on the case. Today, a dodgy doctor who's pocketing cash that's meant for essential patient care.
I was surprised by this type of offence being committed by a GP. It was quite a brazen fraud. It was a significant breach of trust.
Three brothers used their hospitality empire to dine out at the taxpayer's expense.
Luxury houses, luxury cars, they paid for private schooling, they paid for private tennis clubs. They were purposefully not paying their tax across. They knew what they were doing.
And a benefits cheat intent on taking the system for a ride is caught on camera.
This is really shocking footage. Someone who's claiming the enhanced rate personal independence payment, taking full liberty of the system, it's just not fair.
The pandemic put the NHS under unprecedented stress, with doctors and nurses working around the clock to help keep us safe. And while many of us were stood outside on our doorsteps applauding them, one NHS staff member was busy helping himself. This is the shocking story of a shameless fraudster who abused his position of trust and put patients at risk by stealing a staggering amount of money.
I was surprised by this type of offence being committed by somebody in trust, and particularly at that time when the NHS resources were quite stretched with the pandemic.
Lisa Garcia works as a senior prosecutor for the Crown Prosecution Service.
My role is to review evidence that's supplied by the police. And in reviewing that evidence, I'm looking to see whether there is a reasonable prospect of conviction. The Crown Prosecution Service will always take very seriously any frauds committed against the public sector, and offenders will be brought to justice.
Lisa may be a seasoned professional, but when a case as big as this one lands on her desk, it has the power to shock even her.
When I first opened the file and started reviewing the evidence, I was quite surprised by what seemed to me such a brazen fraud. The significant sums involved from somebody held in very high regard within the community.
According to the police report, tens of thousands of pounds are being siphoned from a group of GP surgeries. And the prime suspect is a senior member of staff.
Largely, the case was based on financial exhibits which related to banking account records showing transfers of funds between the GP surgeries and the accounts of the suspect. Over a period of 41 days, there were a total of 64 transactions. That was during the period when obviously we were in a global pandemic due to COVID, and there was significant stress, as we all know, in the NHS.
With the NHS facing massive demand, losing this money could put patients' lives at risk.
The money which was held by the GP group was for out-of-hours service and home care. It should have been reinvested into further care services, training staff and buying equipment.
It's a callous crime, and police already have a suspect. But to bring them to justice, Lisa will need proof. She starts by delving deeper into the surgery's bank records.
The first transaction occurs on the 21st of August of 2020. The last transaction was on the 28th of September 2020. There are some days where there are multiple transactions. Other days there are no transactions. There's no clear pattern.
All told, it's a staggering sum. The surgeries have lost over £1.1 million. How could the suspect take so much without raising suspicion?
If you look at the transactions and the multiple transactions on certain days, most of them are under the £20,000 limit. That was so as not to trigger further fraud intervention from the banks.
It looks like the fraudster's gone to great lengths to try and cover their tracks. And they've got away with it. Until now. It's an awful abuse of trust. And when Lisa identifies her prime suspect, it sends shockwaves through the investigation. It's one of the doctors.
The suspect was a founding member of the GP group. He was a director within that group. As a director, he was also a practicing doctor and was obviously completing all business for the GP surgery group.
The GP is a respected member of the community, but he's been stealing money meant for his patients from right under the noses of his colleagues. Lisa has the suspect in her sights, but needs more evidence of how he was able to carry out the fraud.
So the partnership of GP surgeries had an accountant who had gone off temporarily sick initially, but then longer-term sick. And as a result, they needed to appoint another person within the business to take over the accounts. The suspect volunteered to take over the bank accounts and to sort out the finances for the business.
And it's just when the suspect takes over the books that things start to look suspicious.
Between the 20th of August 2020 through to approximately the 30th of September 2020, there were a total of 64 transactions.
In just 6 weeks of looking after the accounts, the dodgy doctor has helped himself to over £1 million of public money and left the surgery's finances in complete disarray.
I was surprised by this type of offence being committed by a GP, somebody in trust.
With the company accountant off sick, the doctor thinks he has free rein. But he hasn't banked on anyone else realising what he's up to.
The movement of monies was first seen by the accountant who was off sick, as he had been receiving notifications from the bank. When the accountant first challenged the suspect as to the movement of monies, the suspect commented that there'd been some form of cyber attack on his accounts and that he was contacting the bank to have that remedied.
But that's a lie. The suspect knows his colleagues are onto him. Astonishingly, that doesn't stop him stealing. Instead, he doubles down on the theft. Later, the investigation steps up a gear to try and claw back the missing million before it's gone forever.
They challenged the suspect about the transfers. He explained in interview that he had remortgaged his own property and had also borrowed from family and friends.
Fraud runs in the family in our next case as 3 greedy brothers cream cash from their restaurant businesses to fund a life of luxury, leaving the taxman and their employees to foot the bill.
The amount they had defrauded from HMRC could have paid the starting salary of 165 nurses.
This is the story of 3 callous crooks that were opening and closing a string of companies and pilfering precious cash from the public purse. On the case is HMRC fraud investigator Zoe Ellerbeck. It's her job to ensure nobody can cheat the system.
I really want to make sure that it was a level playing field and everybody had the opportunity to run a business in a fair manner.
But not everyone feels the same. Shihab Hashtrudi, along with his 2 brothers, Shaheen and Hediat, have been well-established businessmen in Bournemouth for nearly 40 years.
They ran a successful business empire. They had pubs, they had restaurants, they had a wholesale alcohol business, and they had an investments company that looked after all the property. So quite a big business empire. They were prominent in the local area. They were known throughout the area as having this successful business.
The brothers enjoy being big names around Bournemouth and splash the cash to live a life of luxury in the plushest part of town.
This is the Talbot Heath area of Bournemouth. It's a very affluent area. The house prices at the moment are over £1 million on average. All 3 brothers lived in this area. Shahad had a lovely house with a swimming pool, and this is where the money from the business was spent.
The brothers have been running their business empire under the name of Grand Leisure since the 70s without any issues.
They paid all the taxes that they declared that were due. We had no suspicion that there was anything owing to HMRC, and they knew exactly what the obligations were.
But that all changes when suddenly the Grand Leisure Partnership is made bankrupt. Not only are their employees out of a job, but there's a huge bill owed to the taxman.
The HMRC debt at the point where they couldn't pay any further was £1.7 million. And that was written off.
That's £1.7 million of taxpayers' money that should be funding vital public services. With their business bankrupt, Shihab and Hediat are banned from being company directors. But within months, they set up new companies to continue running their restaurants and bars.
So at this point, they wanted to continue the businesses, and they set up limited companies that Shaheen was a director of. During this time, the other brothers, Shahab and Hediat, were still involved in the business. Shahad, again, was the financial controller of the business, and Hediat was running the pubs and Shaheen the restaurants.
But the bungling brothers are no better at keeping this business running. And soon enough, their new venture goes bust too.
So after 12 months, the 3 companies went into voluntary liquidation, and their debts were still owing to HMRC. The 4th company took over the operations of the pubs and the restaurants and carried on for another 12 months until they went into voluntary liquidation, owing the money again to HMRC.
Yet more failed companies. All told, they've left debts to HMRC of over £1 million. But it doesn't seem to slow the brothers down.
After the liquidation, Shahab had already set up directorships of new companies which would take over the running of the bars and the restaurants. So for the members of the public, they saw no change in the business itself.
The Hashtrudi brothers have no shame walking away from their debts to the taxpayer. And they're still enjoying all the trappings of a lavish lifestyle.
Behind me is the West Hants Tennis Club. It's an exclusive tennis club for people in the Bournemouth area. The brothers were members here for several years. We know from their bankings that Shahad had spent at least £10,000 on membership here, and that's without the wining and dining and the luxury lifestyle that goes with it.
That's money that should have been pouring into the public purse. Instead, it's being used by the Hashtrudis to hobnob with the Bournemouth elite. Honest businesses do fail, and HMRC have been trying to advise the brothers on how to fix their ailing companies. But when their latest business goes bust, alarm bells start to ring.
So the officers that were trying to assist the business to carry forward had suspicions that there was a fraud happening across the businesses. It was at this point it was referred for a criminal investigation, and we started to look deeper into the companies. We pulled together the history of all the different companies and looked into the behaviour of the brothers during that period. We could see that there was a good business that it started with, so the brothers must have known what they were doing. And it must have been a contrived, fraudulent insolvency in every single case.
The brothers' success over 30 years shows they do know how to run a business. But Zoe's team believes that in setting up companies that repeatedly go bust, they've been taking advantage of a loophole to avoid paying HMRC what's due.
And it's at that point that we took the decision to arrest the brothers.
Not only can Zoe and the team now question the brothers, but they can search any premises connected to them and their businesses.
At the time of the arrest, HMRC also searched the 3 houses of the brothers and the head office. We needed to look at business records. Those were on computer, there were paper records as well. Any computers that the brothers had in their home addresses where they were conducting their business, we would have looked at those, and these were all taken for further examination.
Later, as Zoe and her team dig deeper, they discover there are no depths the brothers won't stoop to keep the fraud alive.
So when things started to go downhill, they took the money that they collected from their employees and the VAT from their customers, and that propped up their luxurious lifestyle.
Many couples like to do and share everything together. And for the couple in our next case, that includes cheating the benefits system. Investigators are onto them, but they're not in for an easy ride. This is the story of a benefits-claiming biker from Plymouth who's intent on swindling the system, and the investigator who's determined to stop him in his tracks.
I'm Matthew Ferguson, and as a fraud investigator, I am highly motivated by the role I do to make sure that the public's purse is being spent in the correct places.
With 7 years' experience under his belt, Matthew's brought countless criminals to account and clawed back hundreds of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' cash. And a timely tip-off has sparked a new investigation.
We had an anonymous referral come through the fraud hotline. The gentleman who was claiming personal independence payment, but the referral stated that he wasn't as disabled as he made out to be. The suspect was claiming that he had spina bifida, hyperthyroidism, diabetes, but ultimately it said that he couldn't walk more than 20 metres without using an aid. He was in constant shooting pain. He was unable to lift his arms over his head, unable to lift objects or move heavy items.
With such a long list of disabilities, the man is receiving the highest level of benefits. To find out if he's entitled to them or if he's just on the take, Matthew starts searching for clues.
Following the allegation, the first thing we did was to request the social media. People these days seem to put their life on social media. It's a really useful tool for us investigators. You can see here from this post that he clearly loves his bike, and it's probably the most important part in his life. And for somebody who's not able to move, bend, stretch, jump, carry heavy objects, this is a man who's able to get onto a bike which looks to me like a super bike. That is not somebody who's going to be in constant pain or discomfort.
As far as Matthew's concerned, if the suspect can ride his bike, then he's almost certainly playing the system. To find out for sure, he takes his investigation up a gear and starts undercover surveillance. And what he discovers definitely looks dodgy.
Here you can clearly see the suspect walking unaided. It's a long distance. He started at the top of the road. For someone who's meant to be in constant pain whilst walking, he looks free of pain, walking just like an ordinary person. If you was to tell me he's disabled, you would think you're lying. Unless he's got a hidden disability or a mental disability, there is no physical problems with his walk.
This is a man who claims he can't walk unaided for more than 20 metres. But the camera footage tells a different story. And it's about to get even worse for the crooked claimant.
Here you can see the suspect getting ready to go out onto his motorcycle. He's got his helmet in his hands, which, according to his claim form, he shouldn't even be able to lift. He clearly puts it onto his head okay. As he continues, he'll put his gloves on. And again, for someone who can't walk, step, stretch, bend, he can get onto his bike really relatively easy. He's not a man who's in pain. He may well have some health conditions, but it is not matching what he's put on his claim form. So this to us is really, really shocking footage to see. Let's be honest, it's someone who's claiming the enhanced rate personal independence payment, and yet he's going out as if it's a Sunday ride. He's just basically taking full liberty of the system. It's just not fair, because there's those that are severely disabled who are reliant on this money.
This leather-clad lawbreaker has already pocketed more than £20,000 worth of taxpayers' cash. And with his dodgy benefit claims still being paid on a weekly basis, even Matthew can't believe what happens next.
So whilst we was investigating the suspect, another anonymous referral came through the fraud hotline, and this time it was actually for his partner. She was claiming the standard rate personal independence payment as well, and was also claiming to be disabled. Her mobility issues were that she could walk up to 20 metres, but no more than 50 using a walking aid. She was unable to lift her arms over her head and was in constant pain as well.
Incredibly, Matthew's now on the tail of two potential benefits cheats, both living under the same roof and both pocketing cash meant for those who need it most.
So between May 2016 to October 2019, she was claiming between £76 and £81 a week. The total of this was over £13,900. So this then became a much bigger case than we first thought, and between the two of them, it was now going up to over £34,000.
The couple are clearly living it up, with money that's not meant for them, with no regard for those that really need it. It's Matthew's mission to see that justice is done, and now he's getting a 2-for-1 deal on his surveillance.
You can see them here loading the car from the shopping they've just got. They've got full bags. Now, bearing in mind, with her claim, she has standard rate mobility and standard care, and he's the enhanced rate one. He's the one that's picking up all the shopping and throwing it into the car. A multi-pack of drinks put straight to the back of the car with it absolute ease, and water again, which is heavy. They're probably at least 5-6 kilograms. He can't even prepare a simple meal, yet he can quite happily load a car full of heavy items and shopping, no problem at all. I think the only discomfort that's showing for her at the moment is the fact that he's taking so long faffing about with the seats. But there we go.
The evidence against the biker is stacking up, but Matthew's yet to see any firm proof that his partner's also playing the system. Worried the wheels are falling off the case against her, he has one last throw of the dice and decides to stake out the couple's home.
The surveillance here showed for the female suspect, her parking up, carrying her shopping out of the car, several bags at a time. This contradicted her claim form because on her claim form she said she was unable to carry heavy objects, she was unable to lift, bend, she was in constant pain, she was unable to walk unaided without a stick for more than 50 metres. So to be able to carry these bags with ease shows that actually she is not as disabled as she's making out to be.
This is turning out to be one of the most blatant cases of benefit fraud that Matthew's ever been involved with. And just when he thinks he's seen it all, he catches the biker breaking into his own home.
The gentleman in question came home in his car. He went round the wall to his front door and he was trying to look for a key, but he couldn't find it. He then proceeded to climb through his window. This completely contradicts his claim form because not only is he climbing, bending, lifting his own body weight, but also he's not in any pain whatsoever in doing so.
Both the claimants have been well and truly caught in the act, and on camera too, so it's time to bring them in for questioning.
So we start with the male suspect. They attended the job centre with a stick and needed a rest upon entering the job centre. And at the start, he was confirming that his claim form is correct. He was saying he was unable to walk the 20 metres unaided. He is in constant pain.
He's sticking to his story for now, but Matthew still has an ace card up his sleeve.
When presented with the surveillance footage, he started to change his tone and quickly admitted that he holds his hands up, his condition has improved, and he's not as disabled as was made out on his claim form.
It's exactly what Matthew was hoping to hear. But when he turns his attention to the man's partner, it's clear she isn't going down without a fight.
The partner is a bit more defensive in the interview under caution. She proceeds to state that she thought the form was meant to be filled out on their worst possible day. When presented with the claim form, she was unable to find that part actually written on the form, but was just adamant that that's what she was told.
She may be sticking to her guns, but Matthew thinks he's got all he needs to convince a jury she's been up to no good. And sure enough, when their case goes to court, the couple both plead guilty to fraud.
The female suspect was given a 12-month community order with 20 days of rehabilitation. The male suspect was given an 8-week suspended sentence for 12 months. He also had an 8-week electronic curfew tag. This meant he wouldn't be able to go to his bike club, which would probably be the biggest impact on him.
But the biggest result of all, the couple are ordered to pay back every penny of the £34,000 that they've swindled from the system.
This was a great result for us as a department because it was now £34,000 we were going to get back from taxpayers' money to go into the public purse to go to people who genuinely are in need. That money could be used to pay for a nurse's salary for a year, it could help get a policeman on the street, it could help put a teacher in school.
For 3 years, this brazen biker and his partner thought they were taking the system for a ride. But now, thanks to Matthew and his colleagues' covert cameras, the brakes have been put on their benefit-cheating ways.
I don't understand how people can live their life constantly looking over their shoulder, waiting for a knock at their door. At some point we will catch you. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but we will get you.
Back in Hampshire, hundreds of thousands of pounds have been discovered missing from the accounts of a GP's practice. An investigation into who's been stealing the money has identified a surprise suspect, one of the practice's own GPs. And it's time to confront him head on.
There was a meeting called with the key directors within the business. They challenged the suspect about the transfers from the business account. He did admit transferring the money to his sole account, and the directors then at that stage made a swift decision that really they were left with no option but to refer the matter to NHS fraud.
On seeing the scale and seriousness of the crime, the NHS investigators immediately call in the police. They're able to gain a copy of the suspect GP's personal bank statements. And as Lisa cross-references them with the surgery's bank records, things finally start to add up.
So this is a schedule of the transactions that were made by the defendant. There's a total of 17 transactions on the 1st of September, which culminates in over £100,000 being transferred. And likewise on the 21st of September, you can see that there was over £100,000 that was sent from the GP surgery account through to the defendant's own account. The last transaction being on the 30th of September. That was at the time when he'd already been challenged by the directors within the GP group.
Despite being called out by his colleagues, the fraudster still doesn't stop. The thefts add up to an eye-watering amount of public money.
Just over £1.1 million was transferred from the GP surgery accounts.
It's a horrific abuse of position, but what he does next takes investigators completely by surprise.
We can see some significant sums that are paid back by the defendant to the GP surgery bank accounts, the first one being on the 28th of September. That was at the time when he'd already been challenged by the directors within the GP group, and that's when the most significant amount of money was returned to the GP account.
The accounts show that the doctor is trying to put some of the money back. And they also offer a clue as to why the suspect might be stealing such huge amounts in the first place.
There were significant sums transferred to online gambling sites, and clearly there was a gambling habit.
Over £1 million of public money put aside for healthcare has been gambled away in just a few months. It's time to bring in the suspect for interview. He may have seemed like a brazen criminal from the evidence, but soon folds under interrogation.
During that interview, the suspect made admissions to the police, accepted that he had transferred the funds, and explained that most of the funds have been used for his gambling habit.
Whilst the police are gathering the remaining evidence, the suspect continues to try and dig himself out of the hole he's in, even making a £30,000 payment directly after the police interview.
There were, in fact, 8 transactions, which totaled £230,000, which the suspect had managed to pay back to the GP group. He explained in interview that he had remortgaged his own property and had also borrowed from family and friends.
But it's too little, too late. Although he's paid back £230,000, the suspect has still left the GP surgery £900,000 short. And that's not lost on the judge when the case goes to court.
The defendant pleaded guilty to 1 count of fraud, abuse of position. The judge decided that it was not appropriate to suspend any term of imprisonment, and so sentenced the defendant to 3 years and 4 months custody.
But whilst justice has been seen to be done, there's still the matter of £900,000 of public money that's been frittered away on betting.
The police went back to the gambling companies that they had identified within the defendant's banking records, and 4 of those companies agreed to repay the significant remaining sum of over £900,000. So that money did eventually get back to the GP business and is returned effectively to the public purse.
In Dorset, the net is closing in on a family of fraudsters siphoning off money from their pub and restaurant empire to live the high life, leaving taxpayers to pick up the bill. But it's time to call last orders on these crooked con men.
The money that wasn't paid across to HMRC supported their lifestyle. They had luxury houses, luxury cars, they paid for private schooling, they paid for private tennis clubs.
Multiple companies run by the brothers Shihab, Shaheen and Hediat Hashtrudi have all gone bust. It could just be bad business. But by now, with more than £2 million owing to the public purse, it looks like the brothers haven't been playing by the rules.
They set up new companies and they put them all into liquidation, owing debts and putting new directors in place, trying to disguise the background of the business.
While the computers retrieved from raids on the brothers' houses and business are sent for analysis, they're interviewed by Zoe's team. The youngest brother, Shihab, is happy to talk, but he's playing dumb.
After Shahab was arrested, he stated at interview that he had no control over the business. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't have any control over the wages or what was sent to HMRC.
Shihab claims the failure to pay VAT is nothing to do with him. Zoe and her team will need to prove he's the one calling the shots. They look deeper into how the businesses operate and find even more irregularities.
Across all these premises, they had in the region of 100 staff, whereas in fact they declared to HMRC they only had 13.
Not only have the brothers been failing to pay VAT, at times they've claimed to have a tiny workforce in order to pocket the income tax and national insurance contributions of their employees for themselves, keeping hundreds of thousands of pounds in the process.
So the brothers have been running successful businesses in the area since the mid-70s. The employees had every reason to believe that the brothers would pay across the tax and the national insurance, which they didn't do.
The brothers have not only been stealing from the public purse, but conning their own employees and putting their pensions at risk in the process.
So when things started to go downhill, they took the money that they collected from their employees and the VAT from their customers, and that propped up their luxurious lifestyle.
Shihab's personal accounts show he's not been shy about splashing the cash.
As well as the £10,000 he'd spent on membership at this tennis club, there was expensive cars, there was luxury houses, as well as the mortgage on the business premises and the nightclub.
Shihab's plush property in a posh Bournemouth suburb is worth close to £1 million. And it looks like the people paying for it are the public. Zoe and her team confront Shihab with the evidence, but he shifts the blame elsewhere.
Shahab said that it was the bookkeeper and accountants that were in control. He knew nothing about the businesses failing until it was too late. It was the accountants and the bookkeeper that decided how much to pay to HMRC and when to pay it.
Zoe needs to speak to the bookkeeper to get their version of events.
When the bookkeepers and accountants were questioned, they said that Shahab was in control of the business. They were never told they were doing a bad job. None of them were ever fired. And they were always firefighting, trying to chase off creditors.
With the accountants pointing the finger of blame back at Shihab, it's up to Zoe and her team to prove who is telling the truth. Emails found on the brothers' computers hold a clue.
I mean, the email obviously says, you know, This is what I could do. What do you want me to do? And she's waiting for him to give some direction.
It looks like Shihab is the one calling the shots, but Zoe and her team will need more proof.
All of these emails show that Shihab conspired with his staff, was asking the right questions of his staff, knew exactly that he was going to defraud HMRC. You could see that in every one of the emails.
The emails are damning, but they still don't show he was acting as company director, something he's banned from doing. But then investigators searching his business make a key discovery. Shihab keeps a diary.
From those diaries, we could see that Shihab was putting daily entries of all the takings and all the payments the business was making. He was in control, even though he stated he wasn't the director, even though his brothers were directors of other companies. He was in control for all of the period of the fraud.
It's crucial evidence. Shihab has been acting as company director when he was disqualified from doing so.
We can see that the takings written in the diary are very detailed. They're actually down to the penny. So he would have known exactly what was happening in the business on a daily basis, as we can see.
Zoe and her team now have all the evidence they need to put the case together.
From the accountants and the bookkeepers and from the computer records that we examined, we could see that Shihab was in control of the finances through all the businesses, even those where he wasn't a director. He was manipulating the returns. He was directing his employees as to what to send into HMRC.
The case goes to trial at Southampton Crown Court and lasts for 7 weeks.
The brothers were convicted of cheating the public revenue, and Shihab was sentenced to 6 years imprisonment, Shaheen 4 years imprisonment, and Hadiyat 4 years imprisonment also.
The cost of the brothers' fraud against the public purse is staggering.
During the period of the investigation, the Hashtrudy brothers defrauded £3.2 million in tax.
It's money that's desperately needed to fund public services. And for Zoe, this is far from a victimless crime.
There were over 100 employees who had their tax and national insurance contributions stolen. This is a huge amount of money, and it's disgraceful.
Join us again when the Fraud Squad continue their fight.
It makes me feel empowered to target these individuals and really go after them.
Bringing wrongdoers to justice and defending the public purse.
We want to hear that to prosecute these kind of offences, and we won't stop.
It's those people that we really want to bring to justice, and nobody is beyond our reach.
Next time can be right now for you. There's plenty more Fraud Squad on iPlayer. It's back here on BBC One at the same time tomorrow. And stay with me for Claimed and Shamed next.